Can everybody hear me okay? Thank you. It's a real honor to be here, and I appreciate your taking the time to come here. Whenever a group of people get together to hear a speaker, there's a lot of hours, a lot of people hours that are in this room, and I will do my best to give you some value for it, so I won't waste your time. Three things I would like to ask you. One is for us to be kind of a team tonight, a team where we are trying to learn together. That's the first request. Second is this is my first trip to Japan. Hopefully not my last one. Hopefully after I give this talk tonight, I'll get invited back. I'm glad you didn't laugh at that. And then thirdly, I'd really like to get your reactions. In the United States, Americans just want to talk. And it doesn't matter if they're in a big group or if the television camera's on, they just want to talk. And I've been told that in Japan it's a little different, that sometimes people don't want to talk in front of others. But I'd really encourage you to share your thoughts tonight about what we're going to talk about. I'm also very grateful to be here representing Ashoka. It's a very important organization that believes in systemic change, and that's what we're trying to do with sports. So I want to talk about how I got here tonight. Many years ago, I got a job at a school for emotionally disturbed behavior problem children. Have any of you ever known a child who's just really out of control, doesn't do what parents want them to do? Anybody know any kids like that? One, two? Well, these kids were so badly behaved. They behaved so badly that they couldn't be handled in their regular school. They were bused from all around the city in St. Paul, Minnesota. It's this special school, and I was hired to work with these kids. They were, we now looking back realize that many of them were abused. They had been physically abused, they'd been neglected. So they were troubled children, and they were hard to handle. So they were put in this special school, and I had the good fortune to work there. And one of the things we were trained in was something called relentless positivity. Anytime these kids did something positive, they got rewarded for it. The boy in the middle at the top, the white boy with kind of a shock of hair, his name was Ricky, and every day he came to school just a mess. His clothes were dirty, he didn't brush his teeth. One day he came and he had brushed his hair. And everybody at the school said, "Ricky, your hair looks so nice." He brushed his hair every day after that because he got that relentless positivity. So I was 20 years old at the time, and I thought that relentless positivity was just the way the world was, but I was wrong. A few years later, I met my wife at this school. Sandra, would you stand up and wave at everybody? Stand up, come on. Sandra and I have been married for 41 years. So we met at this school, and a few years later we had a son, and I went to Stanford Graduate School of Business. And then my son wanted to play soccer and basketball and baseball, and I ended up coaching his baseball team. Can you tell which one of these people is me? not that hard, I hope. And that's my son Gabriel. He's now 37 years old. And what I discovered when I went to his practices, the first year I wasn't the coach, was there was so much negativity that I had a kid once who cried. You know what T-ball is? T-ball is where you have a tee and you put the ball on it, and then the little kid hits the ball off the tee. It's not moving, it's just sitting there. And I had a kid who was so nervous that because of his dad, so much negativity, he would miss the tee, he would miss the ball. I had kids crying at T-ball practice because there was so much negativity. Now, these kids were not abused. They didn't come from poor families. Their parents were PhD students at Stanford, or they worked at Stanford, or they worked in the high tech in Silicon Valley. These were very privileged kids, but there was so much negativity that they could not perform very well. Those two examples, working in a school where it was very troubled kids, but relentless positivity and they did well, and then very privileged kids, a lot of negativity and they didn't do well. That is where Positive Coaching Alliance started. So when I started coaching, I used relentless positivity with my players. Every time he did something right, I said, hey, way to go, Billy. Sandy, way to go. And they got better. They were aggressive. They played well. We won a lot of games. And the parents wanted their kids on my team the next year because their kids had so much fun and they did well. Now, that was my personal experience that said relentless positivity works really well with young kids. These were 6- and 7-year-olds. And then I met Barbara Fredrickson. Barbara is a researcher at the University of North Carolina. And she has worked in a whole area called positive psychology. And what her research shows is that positivity builds and broadens. That when people get a lot of positivity, they're able to make better decisions. They learn more and they learn faster when there's a lot of positivity. They make better decisions. They're better in adversity. And they have what she calls an upward spiral. Have you heard of a downward spiral? Downward spiral where everything is going wrong. Oh, whoa. She said positivity creates an upward spiral. So I realized my personal experience was reinforced by this research. But that's not all. At Positive Coaching Alliance, we work with a lot of sports psychologists. Anybody here study sports psychology? I know there are a few. Sports psychology is how do you get the best out of athletes? Athletes function in a very tense, competitive, difficult environment. You're trying to beat the other team, which is trying to beat you. You maybe win the starting position on your team, but then a young player comes up who's really good and might take your job away from you. Being an athlete is a very stressful situation. So we worked with sports psychologists. This is Charlie Marr on the left. He's with the Cleveland Indians Major League Baseball team. And Ken Ravizza at Cal State Fullerton works with the Tampa Bay Rays and the Los Angeles Angels baseball teams. So when I asked them, what does negativity do to an athlete? They said, it takes you out of the moment. Charlie Marr has this great phrase, mind in the moment. The most important thing for an athlete is to be present, to have your mind in the moment. You're not thinking about what happened before. You're not worried about what's going on. You're just totally focused on the present. Negativity distracts you from what you're trying to do. So now we have my personal experience, we have this research, and then we have sports psychologists who say, if we can keep athletes' mind in the moment, keep the negativity away. Let me share a story with you. Let's say that we're in this beautiful room, and there's lots of really wonderful things to eat. There are beautiful pictures and photographs to look at. There's wonderful music to listen to. And there's a poisonous snake in the room. Are you able to enjoy the good food? Are you able to enjoy the good music? Are you able to enjoy the beautiful paintings? Or are you always wondering where that snake is? For an athlete, negativity is that snake. It takes your focus away. I can hit this pitcher. I'm a batter and I can hit this pitcher if I can focus. But if I'm worried about a snake, if I'm worried about my coach yelling at me all the time, my mind is out of the moment, I get distracted. But there's more. I recently met Mary Fry, who is at the University of Kansas. And she studies team culture in sports. How do you create a great team culture? She says the key is to create a positive and caring culture where athletes feel respected by the coach and their teammates. They feel valued, and here's the important one, they believe that their coach believes in them. When a coach believes in a player, that causes the player to start to believe in himself or herself. So how do you, when you create that team culture where people feel respected and valued and believed in, then some great things happen. For example, athletes have more fun. Now, maybe you think fun isn't very important. If you're a professional athlete, it's your job. You're supposed to do your job. But it's very clear to me that people who enjoy what they're doing work harder at it and they do a better job. So when you create this caring climate, a positive caring culture, then athletes have more fun, they try harder, they're better sports, they have less anxiety. When they go up to bat, they're not so nervous. They're better teammates and they handle their emotions better. So there's all this research, so let me just ask you some questions. What I'd like you to do is just for 2 minutes is turn to someone next to you or someone behind you. So pair up in twos. And these 3 questions, which are in Japanese. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with me that positivity helps athletes get better and negativity distracts them? Do you agree with that? Second, is there too much negativity in sports? Do you think there's too much negativity? And if so, why? And then thirdly, if we're a coach, what can we do to reduce the negativity on our team? So I'm going to give you like 2 minutes. Talk to the person next to you about those 3 questions. Go.